So we have two former LAPD officers with us today, Al Moreno and Brian Bentley, and we are talking about the police. Both of you are also authors, so we are going to ask a little bit about your books in a second. But I want to get to the question that we are going to get answered from both of these police officers, and that is, why is it that a white man can seem to get in the car, or a white man who's accused of a crime can seem to get in the car and walk away and, you know, get a trial, go to jail, and be allowed all the liberties of an American citizen. But when a black man is accused of a crime, he's shot dead. And I want to be specific for you, Al and Brian. Dylan Roof went into a church in South Carolina and prayed with a collective group of black members of that church before he shot and killed 9 of them. And officers peacefully brought him in. It is alleged that they even stopped off and got him a burger at Burger King. And he's now in jail and not dead. However, we have someone like Michael Brown or George Floyd, who was alleged to have had a fraudulent $10 or $20 bill, and he ends up dead at the knee of a police officer. And these cases happen over and over again, where we see white men almost kill people, and they get brought in, they get taken in, and black men who do less crimes get killed. And so I'm asking Al and Brian, why does that seem to happen most often?
Well, I'll address,
Go ahead, Brian.
in my situation, I worked in South LA, and we have a lot of great officers, but you have bad apples. In South LA, in the black community, that's where the bad apples are. That's where they go intentionally. I worked with a lot of officers that were very aggressive, addicted to the violence. Addicted to the violence, they loved it. Their mantra was that they were hunters of men, and that they went out and they sought that type of violence every day and every night. You know, they're addicted to the violence in the way that people are addicted to cigarettes and alcohol. They can't help it. I mean, we see people now, officers have body cameras on, people have cell phones in their hands, you have surveillance cameras on businesses, and these officers still go out and they still commit misconduct and brutality because they cannot help it.
So Brian, it sounds like you're not saying that it's even a race situation. You're saying it's a blue situation.
Well, I'll say
not brown. You're like the officers, period. So it's not that white officers want to kill black men. It's that police officers want to kill people. That's what it sounds like you're saying.
Well, you know, in a sense, that's it. But to my point is that those who have that addiction, who are violent, are allowed to exercise that in the black community. They can't go in the white neighborhoods and do that, but they can come in the black community because they use the statistics of crime and they get away with it. That's their excuse. Well, I mean,
is that true?
That they're in high crime rate? No,
I'm asking Al, is that true?
No, I radically disagree with Brian, and I'm talking to you from my own personal experience.
Of course.
You're going to get into altercations with suspects that resist. You're going to screw up your uniform. You're going to get hurt. There's going to be an internal affairs investigation, and it's a lot of hell for nothing. The problem is that so many times now, so much of the public has been habituated to resist. I mean, when you get stopped by a policeman, he's going to give you a ticket, give him your driver's license, proof of insurance, cooperate with him. If you disagree with him, fine, you can take him to court. But it's gotten to now where you make a police stop and or a traffic stop, and you ask somebody in the course of your duty, and right away you're getting challenged. You're just up in the ante straight away. And I don't. If I knew of a policeman that was beating the hell out of somebody or had this propensity, I would roll him over and make your head spin. And I would not. I would do it. And when I spoke to the sergeants and the rest of the officers that I worked with were the same mentality. So I'm just, when I listen to Brian, I don't know what LAPD is talking about, because that wasn't my experience. And I'm not saying by any stretch of imagination that there aren't bad officers, not only in the Los Angeles Police Department, but in other police departments as well. But that's just totally not the truth. You know, you go to work, these people that that become officers have this mentality of that they want to help the community. They want a job that's exciting. They want a job that pays somewhat reasonably well. And it's just not my experience at all. And like I said, if I seen somebody doing something like that, I would drop a dime on them in a heartbeat.
Well, Chris Dorner saw someone doing that to people, and he reported it, and they fired him.
Well, you know, that was my
Dorner. Believe me, he had a really bad track record in the military, and he also had a really bad track record in the academy. And he also had a really bad track record with different officers. In fact, one of the two officers that I mentored onto the LAPD, I'm not going to mention his name, but he was on Dorner's hit list, by the way. And he was in Dorner's academy class, and everybody was trying to figure out how the hell is this guy staying on the job, because he was just screwing up one time after the other. And on top of that, I don't care what anybody says or does, or if you don't like it, you get the hell out of there. Why stay? It's just insane. I don't understand why somebody would want to stay on a department and you know, in his mind, that kind of police officers. I would.
Well, Al, what always interests me is I do hear people say that there are bad apples in the police department.
There are.
Admit it. But I've never met a police officer who knows a bad apple.
Oh, I knew a bunch of bad apples. I have their email and text numbers. You know, a lot of my partners were bad. And, you know, I worked the...
Did you report them, Brian?
No, I didn't report them. A lot of it was, well, one of the things that I said too is that, as I mentioned before, that if you do report it, you have to have concrete evidence. Otherwise, you become the victim. And secondly, as part of being a police officer, your job is to stop your partner from being excessive. You know, emotions run high. Sometimes officers get violent. Sometimes they act unprofessional. And as a partner, your job is to reel them in. And so
we have some of our soulmates who are commenting, so I want to let them weigh in. Miss Shay Jim Dropper says resisting arrest doesn't mean or doesn't warrant being killed. And she wants to know, Al, are you for Blue Lives Matter campaign?
I'm for all lives matter campaign. Every human being is as precious as another human being, regardless of the color.
Do you see that there is a systemic difference in the way Black people are treated when it comes to the policing in America?
I can talk from this personal officer's experience that how I treated Black suspects. They got treated like white suspects, Hispanic suspects, and the officers that I worked with did the same thing. And if they didn't, I'd be on their ass.
Interesting.